Welcome back, Ronin Renegades. I am Lupine Fiasco. This is Daily FaB gameplay, and today's game will be played against Dorinthea Ironsong. For anyone who is new to the channel, welcome to the Resistance. What we do here is review replays of games that I have played on the Talishar client days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge my plays. I'll walk through turn cycles as if I were taking them now, while explaining my thought process for the lines that I take. We compare that new line to what I did in the past to either learn from our mistakes or reinforce good play patterns. The goal of all this is to tighten and optimize our gameplay in the future, to take down paper events and walk away with that shiny, shiny cardboard. Without further ado, let's jump into our sideboard and our game plan. Today's game features my harmonized Kodachi list. If you would like to check that list out on FaB or try it for yourself on Talishar, the deck link is in the video description below. While you're down there, if you have not already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. It is the best free way to support me, and make sure you see daily FaB gameplay in your video feed 5 days a week. Having won the die roll, we are going to choose to go second. This is a great way to improve your win rate against Dorinthea as FaB, as the ability to block out Dory's first attack on turn 1, then draw up at the end of her turn, is such a huge way to gain tempo. If Dory can do the same thing to us by making us go first, she can effectively block 12 damage with the cards in her hand, then get her first crack with the Dawnblade that we won't want to block because we want to attack her. This really is a tempo matchup where winning the die roll can add or subtract 20% from your win rate. It's nuts how important winning the die roll is. Luckily, we do win, so we are going to choose to go second. As far as our equipment loadout, we aren't going to change a thing. Our game plan into Dorinthea is to smack her with the Kodachis, trigger the Mask of Momentum, and draw additional cards. We want to take resources away from her on blocks. We want to strip her armor very quickly with our Kodachis, our Phoenix Flames, our Double Strikes, and all of our breakpoints. We're going to leave our Flamescale Furnace, as having that extra armor to block the Dawnblade is crucial in this matchup. And because Warrior does not currently deal arcane damage, we have no use for our Spell Void or our Arcane Barrier. Moving into the deck itself, we are going to cut our stab wounds and add in Warmonger's Diplomacy. We are also going to cut our Enlightened Strikes and add in Sink Belows. The reason for this is that Warmonger's Diplomacy is very strong against Warrior generally, and even stronger against Dorinthea. 2 out of 3 of what I would call Dorinthea's power cards are non-attack actions, and those include Steelblade Supremacy and Glistening Steelblade. If she is setting up for a big turn involving either of those 2 cards, and we hit her with a Warmonger's Diplomacy, she cannot play them and attack with Dawnblade under either War or Peace. She will have to choose one of the 2, likely War, which will effectively neuter that power turn. Her third power card is Singing Steelblade. That is an attack reaction, so Warmonger's Diplomacy doesn't affect it. Hitting Dory with a well-timed Warmonger's Diplomacy can really take away all of her tempo and give it back to us, especially if she doesn't block a big attack from us, expecting to be able to use a 5-card hand to rip tempo away and possibly even win the game. As far as E-Strike for Sink Below is crucial in this matchup. A well-timed defense reaction to blow out Dory's attack can reset the Dawnblade and take tempo away from her. E-Strike, while being very strong, does not synergize very well with Art of War. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you see that E-Strike generally is the default cut if I need to bring in defense reactions. E-Strike itself is a very strong card. It's very versatile in FaB. It pairs very well with Snapdragon Scalers as a way to fix a bad hand, but In general, when I'm making a cut, E-Strike is going to be the first thing to go as one of our generic good cards that doesn't necessarily synergize as well with the rest of our deck. I've touched on our game plan a bit already, but winning a matchup against Dorinthea is all about controlling the Dawnblade. If FaB chooses to race Dorinthea, we are likely going to get outpaced by the Dawnblade. As the Dawnblade grows, it becomes harder and harder to block when we need to, and we will need to commit too many resources to stopping lethal attacks. Now, it's possible that we just draw the nuts and run Dory over without ever having to block the Dawnblade, but generally you are going to need to reset it once or twice over the course of a game. Sink Below is very important for doing that, blocking with armor, potentially giving up an entire hand of cards to reset the Dawnblade can take tempo away from Dory for the low cost of skipping our turn. There's another way to reset the Dawnblade, which is to just deal enough damage to Dorinthea that she needs to block from hand to the point that she no longer has resources to attack with the Dawnblade. The Dawnblade resets, and we have effectively stopped the Dawnblade. You can achieve that in a number of different ways. The best way is through a big Art of War turn and effectively blocking the Dawnblade up until you fire off an Art of War is the best way to ensure that you get that 5-card Art of War hand and you don't need to block leading up to it. I wanted to show this game because I love the Dorinthea matchup. I think it's very fun. I think it's very challenging in a way that no other matchup is for FaB. It asks us to block so much more often than any other matchup does. And in this match particularly, I thought at the time that I played it very well and I made very smart, well thought out blocks. And in editing down the game length, realized that I was wrong and I just made a bunch of dumb plays that managed to work out. So I'm as excited to review this game as I hope you are, to see where I made some blunders and where we can tighten that up in the future. With all that said, let's jump into the game itself and see how all of these plans come together. Phoenix Flame goes to discard, we draw into our opening hand, and we get started. Art of War in the opener is less than ideal. We are going to play it pretty aggressively here with spoils and the Dawnblade. That is 5 damage. Dory has 2 cards in hand, and because Dory's deck is so full of attack reactions that add +3 to the Dawnblade's power, between our Soaring Strike, our Snatch, and our Salt the Wound, we can expect to block 7 here. I really don't want to get blown out by an attack reaction. With Dory having another card in hand to pitch to a second Dawnblade swing, I would like to prevent her from putting a counter on it this early. So we're going to play this Art of War. We're going to banish our Snatch and hope to draw into another 3 block, or at least 2 more 2 blocks, which would let us block for a total of 8. Instead, we draw into another Art of War, which is too bad, so we'll block 7 here, and just hope we do get hit with the Iron Song response. Dory is going to be able to attack with the Dawnblade again with the additional resource, and we can't block it. So we're just going to take our 3 points of damage here, go to 36, and let the Dawnblade get a counter. I'm going to have to excuse the frog in my throat. The plays are not the only thing that are sick about this game. Drawing into another fairly bad hand here. We don't have a ton of good options for how to play this out. There is a consideration for playing the Mounting Anger, pitching our Art of War to do so, then playing Snatch, but we end up with this floating energy that we can't use for a Kodachi because the Kodachis won't have Go Again. So we are going to make a weird decision to fire off the Art of War here just to try to apply some sort of pressure to Dory. We'll pitch our Sink Below, we'll banish our Mounting Anger, and depending on what we draw into, we could fire off this Snatch and use our Snapdragon Scalers. Ideally, we would be keeping the Sink Below to Arsenal, but we really just need to make something happen with the Dawnblade already having a counter. We draw into an okay hand. We are going to need to fire off the Snapdragon Scalers on this Snatch, but at the very least, we can push some damage behind it. We get a full set of armor from Dory, not including the Brave Forge Bracers. This is fine. The Crown of Providence and the Refraction Bolters are both one-time use. Courage of Bladehold is effectively one-time use because Dory will not want to give it up without using it. And the Temper prevents her from blocking again and also keeping the Courage. So we'll just send some damage behind this Snatch, pushing 5 points of damage and getting 2 cards from Dory's hand. Drawing into a series of 3 blocks that do not attack well. So we do want to block here. And the question is, what are we blocking with and what are we anticipating Dorinthea having? How I like to play this matchup is blocking for the worst possible scenario. Just mathing out what Dory could possibly have and then blocking around that. The worst thing she could possibly have is Singing Steelblade and Iron Song response. We've seen 1 red Iron Song response already, so we know that there are 2 more in Dory's deck. If she uses this 1 resource to Singing Steelblade, that's +1 power. The Iron Song response that it finds is +3, and another Iron Song response in hand is +3, for a total of 11. We can't quite block 11 damage unless we wanted to give up our entire hand and armor, which is not the worst decision, but giving up so much tempo just on the off chance that Dory has the worst outcome is not exactly where I want to be. So if we are blocking not around the worst outcome, but around what we could realistically expect from a Dorinthea, which is that she has 2 1-cost attack reactions, we only need to block this Dawnblade for 7 to negate the power of 1 attack reaction. Dory, of course, does not have the resources to play 2. So if we block this with Lava Burst, Command and Conquer, and Blaze Headlong, that's a total of 8. We play around 1 attack reaction. We can't play around 2 unless we wanted to give more resources from hand, which I really don't want to. I want to keep this Snatch. And luckily, if Dory does have a 1-cost attack reaction and another Iron Song response, yes, she pushes damage over our blocks, but she does not have a resource to attack with the Dawnblade if she chooses to break Refraction Bolters. So we are just going to go ahead and block for 8. We'll keep our Snatch as just a strong 1-card play. Dory does not play an attack reaction, so we reset the Dawnblade and move back to our turn. Dory is going to need to give a defense reaction from hand or a card from hand and armor to stop the Snatch. And it looks like that is what she's doing. So we do get a card from hand and pass a turn with no arsenal. Dory coming in with the Glistening Steelblade. This is absolutely something that we need to block here. So again, looking at the worst possible situation is another 7 on the back of this Dawnblade between Singing Steelblade, Iron Song response, and another Iron Song response from hand. So how could we block 10? Well, we could block with our entire hand and armor. And that is what I'm advocating for here. If this wasn't a Glistening Steelblade, if this was something like a Spoils of War, then I might not be so enthusiastic about giving all of my cards to stop the Dawnblade. But because it's Glistening Steelblade, we really need to stop it. If Dory does attack react over the top of our blocks and still has resources available, she can get 3 counters on the Dawnblade this turn, even if she doesn't have resources available, even if this hand is Singing Steelblade Iron Song response. She could break Courage of Bladehold to make the second Dawnblade attack free and pick up those 2 extra counters. So what I'm advocating for here is throwing our entire hand in front of the Dawnblade with Flamescale Furnace, just to make sure that it doesn't hit. What I do instead is block for 9, and I believe this is what I was talking about at the start of this video, where I just did bad math. So this luckily plays around a 1 cost plus 3 attack reaction and a 0 cost plus 3 attack reaction, but it doesn't play around the worst possible situation. And if Dori has the worst hand possible for us, this is a huge blowout. We give up a ton of resources for the Dawnblade to still get 3 counters. So I really wish that I would have blocked with the Blaze Headlong here. As it turns out, we don't get punished for this, let's call it a misstep, but we very easily could have gotten punished for it and probably lose the game on the spot. As it is, Dori passes the turn, we will pass it as well. We draw into an okay hand. Dori throws Spoils of War. We see Dori pitch a yellow Ironsong response. It's possible she had that in hand earlier, and if we had blocked a little less aggressively on that Glistening Steelblade turn, that we would have gotten blown out. So I am glad that we at least blocked 9, if not 10. As for this Dawnblade, our hand is just really, really good. We are going to be able to attack with a Blaze Headlong, a Kodachi, a Ravenous Rabble, a Lava Vein Loyalty, and a Command and Conquer. So we're going to threaten Mask of Momentum at least once, depending on how Dori blocks, and end the turn with a Command and Conquer. I really don't want to block here. And the great thing about us being at 36 is that we don't have to. We can just take this damage, go to 28. Dori does not have the resources available to attack with the Dawnblade again, so really it doesn't even get counters. We just take some damage, and we're going to be able to throw some heat back at Dori. We'll start with the Ravenous Rabble, follow with our Kodachi, then throw a Blaze Headlong. We see that Dori does block the Rabble, which is great news for us. She's going to have to block again if she wants to prevent the Mask of Momentum trigger. So at this point, we will throw our Blaze Headlong, which we need to do because we need to give the Lava Vein Loyalty go again. So unfortunately, we don't get to throw our Mask of Momentum trigger on a 4-power attack. It will only be on this 3-power attack, but we are still getting another card from Dorinthea, and then Command and Conquer will get at least 1 card from Dorinthea. Either 2 cards from her hand or 1 card from her arsenal. And she's taking a ton of damage. So she takes 6 here, loses the Ironsong response from arsenal that we know she had in her hand on the Glistening Steelblade turn, and throws a naked Dawnblade, which we are just happy to take. We'll play out this entire hand. We get our Tiger Stripe Shuko trigger. We can either play or arsenal our Phoenix Flame, depending on how this turn comes together. We're just going to take this damage. We'll go to 21. We'll give the Dawnblade a counter because Dori effectively doesn't have armor left. The Braveforge Bracers is out of block value. The Courage of Bladehold has 1 left, but if Dori wants to give us that 1 power, that's fantastic. We would love to get blocked by Courage of Bladehold and let it break due to Temper. So we'll throw the Brand with Cinderclaw. Ravenous Rabble here, thankfully coming in for 4, likely to get 2 cards from Dorinthea. Now we have a choice. We can either throw our Phoenix Flame for 2 and our Lava Burst for 5, or throw our Lava Burst for 6 and arsenal the Phoenix Flame. And I like what I'm doing here, throwing the Lava Burst for 6 and arsenaling the Phoenix Flame. We lose 1 point of power on that turn, but we know that we can't brick. We don't have Snapdragon Scalers anymore, so if we drew a hand of Lava Vein Loyalty, Lava Vein Loyalty, Blaze Headlong, Blaze Headlong. That hand is just unplayable without the Phoenix Flame in Arsenal. So Phoenix Flame here is just going to let us make sure that our turn happens. We can see that we didn't need it. And we are taking a bunch of damage from Dorinthea here. The dominated Dawnblade is very, very strong. Dawnblade going up to 2 counters. Let's think about how we're going to sequence this hand. With our Phoenix Flame in Arsenal, we don't have a way to generate 6 links this turn. We can only do 5 on a single combat chain. So what we're going to do instead is just push some damage. We're going to throw a Ronin Renegade, then we're going to throw a Phoenix Flame, and we'll break the chain after that. We'll play our 3 head jabs from hand, which lets us pick up the Phoenix Flame and play it again. And the Phoenix Flame is going to get the Tiger Stripe Shuko trigger. So instead of just playing out what we have for 13 damage, we're sneaking in a little extra damage on top of it. And again, we're unlikely to trigger Mask of Momentum doing this. We're only threatening Mask 1 time, and we're threatening it on a 3 power attack. So Dorinthea will be able to block once from hand to stop it, but we're just pushing damage. We're pushing lethal here. If Dorinthea only blocks the Mask of Momentum trigger, she goes to 2. We have all of our armor and 10 points of life to block her attack, and she's effectively Kodachi locked after that. Instead, we're just throwing some damage. This Phoenix Flame potentially takes Dory to 1. It does. She decides not to block here. And we get our Mask of Momentum trigger. We have an interesting decision to make with this Mounting Anger. We can either arsenal it and set up a 5-card hand, or we just pitch it for a Kodachi. Pitching for a Kodachi is generally not an impactful play, but here it's lethal. So we get a card from Dory, either one from hand or this Courage of Bladehold, which is effectively a card because it equals what Dory would pitch to attack with the Dawnblade. So we are going to attack with this Kodachi and just get our card from Dory. Dory with only 2 cards left in hand. Yes, she has the Courage of Bladehold, but the question is, can she use it? And the answer appears to be no. Dawnblade just coming in for 7. No resources floating, no cards in hand. There are no tricks here. So we will block this Dawnblade with Mask of Momentum and Flamescale Furnace, then use a Sink Below to cover the rest of the damage. We will sink our other Sink to try to find something that lets us close out the game. As Dory is at 1, we just need another Draconic attack to let us activate FaB, strip Dory's hand completely, and hopefully win the game. A blue here just ends it. Instead, we draw into a Soaring Strike. We throw the Soaring Strike. This is going to get Courage of Bladehold and a card from hand. Then we will follow up with Brand with Cinderclaw, Harmonized Kodachi, and Phoenix Flame. We don't win this turn, but we do strip the hand and can hopefully come back next turn with 5 chain links or a number of breakpoints. Sometimes Dories run Ironsong Pride in the deck, which doesn't block, so there is a chance that we just win off the back of this Phoenix Flame, but Dory does have the last block card. And we draw into a hand that is more than good enough to just close out the game. Kodachi, Kodachi, Mounting Anger, strips the hand, then Ronin Renegade, deals the lethal damage. So overall, I really wanted to show this game to you because I think it is an excellent example of the type of plays that you need to be okay with making to win games against Dorinthea. No other matchup do we give our entire hand to block when we wouldn't otherwise die. This is the only matchup where sometimes it is correct to look at our life total, see 35, and say, I'm going to block this one attack with 4 cards from hand. Because if we keep the Dawnblade under control, then Dori can only do so much damage on her average turn. You might have the Naked Dawnblade that gets buffed up by Steelblade Supremacy and Glistening Steelblade to become insane. But on these normal turn cycles, we saw the Dawnblade taking 3 cards to do 8 damage. Okay, we're happy to take that damage because now we're racing and we win that race. So Dori is just all about knowing when to take turns off, when to eat damage to send it back, and how to keep the Dawnblade under control so that you don't get overwhelmed by it in the late game. I hope this game was helpful. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, be sure to head jab that like button. My comments are always open for questions or feedback. I'd love to know what you think about the lighting in this video. Normally I have my ceiling light on and my ring light in front of me, but I wanted to see what it looks like if I'm not backlit, if I'm just frontlit. So let me know how you felt about that or if you didn't notice at all. I am looking forward to seeing you back here tomorrow for more daily FaB gameplay, and keep an eye out later this week where I will be posting a post-Lexi State of the FaB metagame. Until then, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all later. Take care.